Hey chat, how's it sound? Hit me with a 1 if it sounds okay. And if it doesn't sound okay, hit me with a 0. All right, good to know. Just give me a second here. I'm gonna get myself a drink and oops. Oh, where do you guys go? Oh, there you are. Oh, there you are. All good. Okay, so everything's copacetic. Fantastic. Let me just get myself a quick drink. Gotta lubricate because I'm old, you know. Just I'm old, so that's why I'm becoming an alcoholic. What can I say? Okay, I'll be right with you guys. And no, I'm not becoming an alcoholic. It was a joke. Okay, be with you in a second. Okay, how you all doing tonight? Or today, this morning, whatever time it is for you guys. Hang on, let me just turn off the scroll here. And let's properly get into this review of Joker, the new movie with Joaquin Phoenix, written and directed, co-written and directed by Todd Phillips, who did The Hangover and some other pictures, right? And I saw it just now. I saw it at 4 p.m. Amsterdam time, which was what, 10 a.m. Eastern? So it's roughly 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. So you guys, more likely than not, have not seen it. So I have the inside scoop for you on this picture. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about it generally, and then I'm going to spoil the ever-living shit out of this thing. Okay, so when I start spoiling, I'll give you the heads up. Okay, so the intro. Is the movie worth it? It's okay. It's not a great picture. It's not a bad picture. It's better than a lot of pictures as of late. Okay, Joaquin Phoenix is always a wonderful actor. It's very capably directed. The script is good. It doesn't quite get there. Okay, it's a good effort, but it's not a great picture. I'm sorry to say. I was looking for. I was like, a little nervous about it. I wasn't quite sure where it was going to go, but okay. Um, but bottom line, it's a solid 4 out of 5. Okay, it's a solid picture. It's not a great picture. And it's not a great failure like, for instance, Apocalypse Now. Apocalypse Now is a great movie that fails. It fails as a movie, but it's still great because the pieces that make it are so spectacular. The scenes, the individual scenes that lead up to the end where it all kind of like falls apart, right? Which is a great metaphor for Vietnam, as it were. Well, Apocalypse Now has these great moments and it all comes apart at the end, but it's still a great picture, right? Now, Joker actually has a clear story. It knows where it's going. It gets there. It's not subtle, or let me phrase it. It's not trying to be clever. You know where it's going from pretty much the get-go. But it gets there. It's a solid picture. It's a good picture as an origin story of Joker. It's fine. It's a fine movie, but it's not. You don't get that excited about it. Okay. Joaquin Phoenix is a very, very good actor. Everything he's in, he always delivers, right? Even if the picture itself might not be that good, he is always on point. Now, Joaquin Phoenix is in every single scene of this picture, practically every single shot of this picture. It's a character study. It's not a thriller. It's not a plot-heavy kind of story, okay? It's not... all the origin movies of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? Or the DC Universe for that matter, They're plot heavy. That is like the characters are doing a lot of shit. They're pursuing this objective, that objective, this staff of whatever the fuck, this ring, this jewel, this, that, the other, right? They're always chasing after something, and they have all these schemes to achieve their goals, right? Joker does not have any of that crap. It is much more of a mood piece. And the picture that's very obviously it's trying to compare itself to is Taxi Driver. Now I'll get to that in a second, but in these first few minutes, I just want to talk to you about like what the picture is about, you know, the vibe of it. Okay, it's trying to be Taxi Driver, and it's much more of a character study. The initial scenes, they are slow paced. It's in no hurry. It's not necessarily boring, but it's not in a hurry. Now that, of course, for people who actually like cinema, that's refreshing because as of late, you know, most movies rather seem in a desperate hurry to get somewhere. And they have all this plot and all these stories and characters and all this shit that sort of like crowds your head, right? Joker doesn't have that. It takes its sweet time, but it's not boring, okay? It's because there's this sense behind it that it knows where it's going, okay? And when a movie starts like that, you get the sense of like, oh, okay, I don't have to worry. This guy knows where he's going. A great example of this is I Am Legend. Remember that picture by, what's his name? Lawrence is the name of the director, with Will Smith as the last man on earth and everybody else was a zombie, you know? And yeah, you know, and he's going around New York City and it's all empty. There's nobody around, right? It's all like decrepit and decayed, right? And he's the last man on earth and everybody else is a zombie and they only come out at night, right? And the beginning of that movie, it took its sweet time, right? And you had a sense that these guys knew where they were going, what kind of movie they were making, right? Okay, Joker has that sense that it's in no rush. Now, the movie takes place in 1982. There are various clues. Near the end, it's quite witty. It has this marquee of a theater that shows two movies. Blowout, that great Brian De Palma picture with John Travolta, a masterpiece, one of Travolta's great pictures. De Palma's great pictures. Blowout is just extraordinary, right? And it was a double feature of Blowout and Zorro the Gay Blade, which I, of course, remember. And, you know, I wouldn't have been surprised if there had been a double billing of those two movies, you know, because they did come out the same year. And I did see Zorro the Gay Blade when it came out. And, yeah, those of you who are cinephiles will, like, you know, curse my name when I tell you that when I was 14, I did not see Blowout. I thought it sounded stupid. And John Travolta was, you know, his star had faded. But anyway, the movie Joker is set in 1982. It's supposed to be like an origin story of Joker. And it achieves that. It is an origin story. But it's very subtle and calm and collected. It's a lot smarter than any of these stupid superhero movies like from DC Comics or from Marvel Comics, right? I mean, the people who made this picture are smart customers. And they made a serious movie. They used the trope of the Joker to make a movie about economic inequality and how a society sort of like becomes separated by this enormous chasm between the 1% and everybody else, right? And it's actually kind of strong in that regard. It doesn't touch on the racial stuff. It doesn't touch on the entitlement of the liberal class, that top 20%, 25% of the socioeconomic ladder that's liberal and sort of like shits on everybody below them. It doesn't touch on that part, okay? It's really about, you know, the very small strata of rich people and everybody else. So it's not quite red-pilled as you'd think, okay? But in general, it's a very well-crafted picture, beautifully shot, beautifully edited. I mean, the cut, the way it was cut, it's just very smooth. There was not a single hiccup in the whole movie. And you guys know that I'm anal retentive about editing. You know, I pay attention to that shit. And there's no hiccup on the editing. The cinematography, like I said, was beautiful. The art direction was beautiful. It's an incredibly well-crafted picture. Well acted, everybody who's in it, and like I said, it's really Joaquin Phoenix who carries the whole picture. He's in, like I said, practically every shot. But it's not a great picture, okay? Robert De Niro's in it too. He plays a sort of like a Johnny Carson figure, a late night TV host on a channel called NCB or something like that. It was pretty funny, and yeah, he's fine. It could have been any actor. His role is actually rather small. I'm not quite sure why they brought him in. One of the producers on the picture is Bradley Cooper, the actor, who I know, and I mean, this is not a secret or anything. He has a very strong relationship with De Niro. They've acted in several pictures before together, and I'm assuming that they're friends, of course, and so I'm guessing that he brought him in, but the role itself is rather inconsequential. The movie is about a loser who lives with his mother, Alfred Fleck. He lives with his mother, and his mother is a little bit, well, she's sort of like senile, slightly off her rocker, right? And he is clearly off his rocker, but he's trying, and he's a fundamentally decent guy, and he likes children, and he's kind. There's this wonderful scene that's spoiled in the trailer of him playing with this little boy on a bus, and he's very good. And there's another scene where he's like acting as a clown. He works as a clown, and he works as a clown. And he's sent to entertain people for different reasons. And he goes to this. There's this one scene where he's entertaining children at a cancer hospital. All the kids there, you can tell that they have cancer, and he's entertaining them, and he's very good at that. There's a great deal of humanity in the performance, which is unsurprising because, of course, it's Joaquin Phoenix, right? But how can I put this? Well, no, there's no but in that. He's just a regular guy living with his mother. A lot of people are going to point to that and say, "Oh, he is an incel." Well, yeah, I mean, it's tacitly, it's implied that he's an incel, that he's not sexually successful, and he lives with his mother, and he lives with his mother in very straitened circumstances, and his mother keeps insisting that she has to contact Thomas Wayne. Of course, those of you who know the Batman mythos, this is Bruce Wayne's father. I believe it's Thomas Wayne. You guys in chat, correct me if I'm wrong. And, oh, that Joker laughs a lot like me? Maybe. Anyway, so she keeps insisting that she has to contact Thomas Wayne, and he'll send money because she worked for him for 30 years, or 30 years ago, and what have you. Okay, fine. And the mother he takes care of her. There's this very lovely moment where he's bathing her, and she's sitting there in the bathtub, and very much like he's bathing a child, of course, and it's implied, of course, that she's an elderly lady and she's now childlike, and he is taking care of her. And his life is very reduced, and it's portrayed often by the fact that nobody writes him any letters. He keeps getting home, and the mailbox is empty every day, right? Anyway, so he works as a clown, and now I'm going to start spoiling the shit out of the movie, okay? So be warned, okay? Spoiler alert, and I'm going to start like typing it out like big so that nobody like bitches at me later that I didn't warn anybody. Okay, let me just set this up, and spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Yeah, you've been warned. Okay, and there we go. Spoiler alert. Okay. Is that clear enough for you kids? I hope so. Okay, so the plot. Like I said, it moves very gently forward, and what happens is that, well, the movie starts out, the very first scene is he gets the shit kicked out of him by some teenagers who steal this sign. He's working as a clown in some, going out of business sale, right? And some kids rip off the sign that he's supposed to be carrying, right, to draw customers' attention to the store that's going out of business. And he chases after them, and they beat the shit out of him. You saw that in the trailer, right? But then a similar scene happens in a subway. These three Wall Street types, white guys, of course, they are accosting some woman who's just sitting there, right? And the woman, actually, I don't know if she was, I think she was white, but like with dark hair or something like that. That doesn't really matter. She wanders off, but you know, Arthur Fleck, who will become the Joker, the Joaquin Phoenix character, he starts laughing because he apparently has this condition that when he's nervous, he starts laughing uncontrollably, and he can't control it. He actually has a card written up that he shows people to explain that, you know, he will laugh uncontrollably because of a psychological condition he has, right? I mean, the guy is off his rocker, and he's taking a ton of meds and the rest of it. So he starts laughing uncontrollably at the scene of these three Wall Streeters slightly harassing this woman, right? And they turn their attention to him. And of course, like a lot of these movies, you know, these Wall Streeters automatically kick the shit out of the guy, out of Arthur Fleck, which of course doesn't make a shitload of sense, okay? I mean, like, I actually know Wall Streeters, okay? I know Wall Streeters in like 3 continents, and or that type of rich guy, rich clothes, you know, educated, nice haircut, right? Those guys, they're not gonna beat up anybody. No, of course not. They're not stupid, because they know that if they got into some sort of street fight, you know, they could get into trouble and it could hurt their career. Okay, so Wall Streeters never get into a street fight. Wall Streeters would never, you know, go out and even young banker type Wall Streeters, you know, those arrogant fucksticks that you see, right? They would never, you know, do something like that, because it's just, you know, but okay, it's a movie, fine. And so they harass him, and the thing is, see, Arthur has a gun. And he has a gun because one of the people at the clown job that he has, after he gets beat up by the kids because of the sign, which is the scene you saw in the preview, yeah, he gives him a gun to protect himself, right? And with this gun, he guns down these 3 Wall Street types, and he guns down the first 2 kind of like almost by instinct, and the third one he goes out and chases him and shoots him down, okay? And so that sort of like, okay, you know, Arthur is not necessarily a nice guy. Okay, fine, you know, these Wall Streeters were assholes, but did they deserve to die? Certainly not. But he kills them. He kills them, and you know, and he gets away, of course. And there's like a whole kerfuffle, like, what the fuck? Who killed these guys? And these guys work for Wayne Enterprises, and Thomas Wayne goes out there and he's all like, you know, what the fuck, right? This is lawless, and these were nice, decent young men and crap like that, right? But everybody starts sort of like siding with the clown, because see, when Arthur Fleck shoots these 3 guys, he's dressed up as a clown. And a couple of witnesses, including the young woman that was originally being harassed, saw that he was like dressed like a clown. And so this clown meme takes off, right? And everybody is like, who's the clown? And people start siding with the clown because of class resentment, okay? Now, this is the interesting part that I liked a lot, okay? These filmmakers know, and I think that the wider liberal establishment realize, that there is enormous class resentment, okay? Something that in the United States is not talked about very much. In the United States, people try to pretend that there's no such thing as class, when of course we all know that there is. And what seems to be happening is that the filmmakers realize that there is enormous class resentment in the United States between the ones who have and those who have not. And the have-nots seem to be the majority, okay? And this movie sort of like tries to address that very gingerly, okay? It doesn't go into the whole racial stuff. It's sort of like, you know, it knows that the class thing is there and the racial stuff is there, but they don't really want to, but they're daring enough, these filmmakers are daring enough to talk about the class stuff, right? So give them kudos for at least, you know, half trying, because they couldn't go all the way. They didn't dare. Because of course, if they'd said full on about, you know, remember the guy who stole the plane, you know, and he stole the plane, he's talking to air traffic control. What's the name of the guy? I forget. He stole the plane, he's talking to air traffic control, and air traffic control is telling him, well, bring the plane back and you'll do fine. And the guy said, no, I'm a white guy, man. They're not going to forgive me for this. Yeah, exactly. These filmmakers didn't have the balls to go in that direction, which would have been really good. But of course, you know, okay. So anyway, Arthur Fleck guns these guys down. There's a whole manhunt, right? And some cops appear and start like looking for him. And like everything is very well constructed in the picture. Now, here's a key thing that sort of like reminds you of Fight Club. Because so far, the movie is a lot like taxi driver, a loner who's got nobody, right? And he has a violent event happen and what have you. Anyway, so, oh yeah, he meets this single mother, this black woman with this little daughter, and he seems to be building a relationship. Okay, now here comes a big spoiler. Okay, it's Fight Club. Okay, there is no relationship with a woman. It's just all in his head because he's so goddamn lonely that he imagines her with him. Now this is key because what happens is that this guy goes and does he has pretensions to being a stand-up comedian. He's not funny, and everybody tells him that he's not funny, but he still insists on being a stand-up comedian. Fine, and he goes on some sort of like open mic thing, and he bombs, but he bombs like spectacularly, like unbelievably bombs, right? But the thing is, see, the movie goes into his subjective experience, and it seems that the show went well, and he winds up going out with a black girl, and they become friends, not quite lovers, not yet, but going in that direction, right? And then later we realize no, that it never happened. We realize this when he starts to discover secrets about his mother's past, right? Now, there's some interesting shit that I wish they'd done a little bit more. This part where, oops, sorry about that, a little kerfuffle here on my computer. There's this part where his mother writes a letter and she wants him to mail it. And he decides to open the letter. And in the letter, the mother has written that a letter to Thomas Wayne because she wants Thomas Wayne to give her money because they're living in such straitened circumstances, right? And so she wants money from him, and she talks about the fact that Arthur is his son. And she talks about how he's doing so well and this and that. And you're like, holy shit, like the Joker is Thomas Wayne's son, Batman's half-brother. I mean, that's like, it just blows your mind, right? I'm spoiling the shit out of this shit right now. Sorry, guys. But you were warned. Okay. So you're like, holy shit, right? And for a big chunk of the movie, you're thinking that this is what's going on, right? And the character of Arthur Fleck goes to Wayne Manor, right? And he comes across little Bruce Wayne, who's like a 10-year-old boy or something like that. And he comes across Alfred, okay? The butler, right? And, but the movie doesn't make like a big to-do about stuff. Excuse me. The movie doesn't even mention Alfred's name, okay? He's just like the butler, but you realize, of course, if you know the mythos, who he really is. And of course, he's a young man, or relatively young, right? So anyway, the movie seems to be going in a very interesting direction. Then it seems to me that it makes a very bad left turn, okay? Well, it's not really a bad left turn, but I'm going to spoil it. I'm spoiling the shit out of this movie. I told you guys. So what happens is that, see, the mother, okay, she is not, Thomas Wayne's former mistress, okay? No, she's just a crazy lady. And she somehow adopted Arthur. And this part is unclear. She adopted Arthur. I don't see why she just couldn't have been a single mother. But she adopted Arthur. And what happened was that she was crazy. She was crazy, and she was locked up in Arkham, the insane asylum. And in fact, Arthur, when he was a boy, was severely abused by his mother's various boyfriends, the boyfriends that came and went in her life, right? And like I said, she was crazy. She was locked up in Arkham for a while, right? And so he realizes that, his mother was just crazy and allowed him to be severely abused, and that's why he's all fucked up. But the movie doesn't make it clear why he doesn't remember this shit, okay? So it's sort of like, I don't know. It seemed to me like a big hole there in the plot, okay? It's kind of like, obviously, if you sort of like just look at it a little bit, why doesn't he remember the fact that he was severely abused, I mean, it doesn't make sense. And the fact that his mother was gone for a number of years in Arkham and he won't know that or remember that, again, it doesn't make a lot of sense, okay? So anyway, the movie continues. I mean, Arthur is just, very angry, and a lot of things like sort of like pile up, and he lashes out. He eventually kills the mother. And eventually, the Robert De Niro character, which is the Murray Rothman, I think his name is, he basically is the Johnny Carson figure. He's got this show that he and his mother used to watch every night, right? Which is, a late night talk show. And what happens is that that show somehow gets the footage from his disastrous stand-up routine that where he totally bombed, and they play it, and they play it for laughs. And it gets such a good response. And again, this part is a plot hole because no audience would really like it. It's just depressing to see a guy bomb that badly, right? But according to the movie, the logic of the movie, it's such a big hit with the audience that they actually want to see him. So the booker of the show calls him up to invite him onto the show. Okay? And the cops are chasing him, and they're cops aren't stupid. They kind of like catch on that this is the guy who probably did it, and they're closing in on him, and a lot of things are going on, and the discovery of his mother, that she was crazy, and all the rest of it, a lot of stress on the guy, right? And so eventually he goes onto the TV show dressed up in full Joker makeup, and that's where he's like fully the Joker, right? With the green hair, the white pancake makeup, and the eyes, and the whole thing. I mean, he's full on Joker, and he goes on the show. And he kind of like gives a speech of resentment, He says how he's resentful, how everybody, the rich people sort of like step over the poor people, right? And they care about like these 3 rich dead Wall Streeters, but they wouldn't care if he had died. They'd step over his corpse on the sidewalk, right? And it's, how can I put this? It's a good speech, but it's not a great speech. It's not like a great soliloquy. It's not, the I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. And the thing is, see, this picture, you can tell that it wants to be like a big social statement. It wants to be like, like I said, it's like Taxi Driver, and the way it sets up its main character. It's like Network, in the sense of trying to make a big social statement about the life that we're living now. It's trying to be, I mean, you can see the influences of other movies and the ambitions of this picture, that it wants to be like these other movies. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is that the movie doesn't pull it off. It's as simple as that. Because the filmmakers, they're pulling their punches. I think that that's the basic problem. See, because these guys, like I said before, they're not stupid. They're really smart customers. And they realize that a guy like Arthur Fleck, this guy who lives with his mother, who's like totally isolated and totally alone, with no opportunities, with no future, no woman, no nothing, right? And of course he's going to go crazy. I mean, he could be the sanest guy in the world, and if you live if you're living a life that is hopeless, of course you're going to go nuts. Of course you're going to be angry. Of course you're going to lash out. And the filmmakers realize this, but they don't go for broke, okay? And I mean, they go really far because they don't make the Joker look bad. On the contrary, he is sympathetic throughout most of the picture, okay? All of the picture, really. Even when he's like shooting people, sometimes you're like thinking, well, yeah, well, he had it coming. You know what I'm saying? Then also there's something else, that the Joker character has a wild sense of humor. There's this one scene where he kills this one character in his apartment, right? He kills this one character in the apartment, but there's a little midget there. But the midget was always very kind to the Joker character, to Arthur Fleck. And so he tells him, you can go. And as the little midget is like walking past him, all of a sudden the Joker like pretends like, oh, I'm gonna get you, and like the little guy freaks the fuck out, and it's funny as fuck, right? And of course he was just kidding. And then there's this great moment where he gets to the door, the midget gets to the door, and see, the Joker, it's his apartment, and he'd like put the the security chain, the thing that you put on the door that zips over, right? And the thing is, it's too high for the midget to get to, right? And so the midget is fucking terrified, but he realizes he has no choice but to turn around and ask the Joker, "Could you please, undo the chain lock?" And the Joker stands up, right? He's all bloody after this murder that he committed, and he goes up to the guy and is like, "Oh, sure," and he goes up and like he undoes it, and the little guy, the midget, you can tell he's fucking terrified. He's terrified that this crazy man is going to kill him, just as he's like about to leave, right? And it's a very, very witty sequence, okay? These filmmakers are really fucking smart, is my point. They are really smart, but they pulled their punches. They were unable to be honest about a few things. They were unable to be honest about the racial stuff. They were unable to be honest about how there is a large segment of that, like I said before, that top 20%, the top 20% that is the service class of the top 1%. And that service class is predominantly liberal. They are like the journalists, they are the accountants and the lawyers and the hairdressers and interior decorators of the top 1%. And those people are lockstep with the 1%. And they think that everybody in the bottom 80% is just, scum, deplorable, and look down on them. They don't look down on the people who are racial minorities, who are poor and downtrodden. They just say, "Oh, poor downtrodden little minority people, they're downtrodden and minority people because racism and shit." Well, fuck off. It's not that at all, okay? And why is it that they're sympathetic to the racial minority who is economically disenfranchised, but not sympathetic to the white people who are economically disenfranchised, huh? Yeah, it's a class issue. And the fact of the matter is we're living at a time where the top 20% has allied itself with the racial minorities to capture their votes so that they vote their way. And so what happens is that we have a block of people, the top 20%, that is the top 1% and its service class, the top 20%, right? Allied with racial minorities of all stripes, of all socioeconomic stripes, who blame all their problems on fucking racism, right? And so it's like an L shape. I mean, if you think of like it on a graph, okay? I wish I prepared a graph that I can show you, but think of it like a graph, like, on the y-axis, you have socioeconomic level. At the very bottom is the poorest of the poor. At the very top is the 1%, right? And on the x-axis, you start from 0 is like white people, and you go further out, and it's the different minorities, right? Okay, and so you have the top 20% plus all of the racial minorities, right? It makes like an inverted L. You see what I'm saying? And that inverted L is allied. The top socioeconomic cohort plus the racial minorities. Then they are battling with the people who are the racial majority and who are economically middle class, lower middle class, and lower class. And that's the battle that's going on. And they hate each other, right? They hate each other, and there's becoming more and more anger between them, okay? Because, well, we don't have to go into it because we know, okay? So this movie sort of like senses this and knows it, but it doesn't dare go all the way. It goes really close. It brings up the class issue, the socioeconomic hierarchy. It doesn't touch the racial stuff. It doesn't dare, right? The fact of the matter is, it's interesting that all of the women are black in this movie. All of them. No exception. The one exception was that woman I mentioned in the subway who was accosted by those 3 Wall Streeter types who seemed to be white, but she, like I said, she had like black hair. She could have been like just brownish, because also the color palette of this movie was very dark, and the character, how she was photographed, you couldn't really tell what ethnicity she was. Okay, it wasn't that obvious because she was a very minor character. She was inconsequential. She had no lines. She was just sitting there for a bit and then moved away, and you didn't even see her. All of the characters who are female, who had lines, they were all black. all of them. Arthur Fleck's shrink, the black woman with the kid who's a neighbor, right? Who he imagines is his girlfriend or pseudo girlfriend for a bit. There was another black woman. Oh yeah, the black woman at the very end, who's also another shrink, that he's talking to. All of the women are black. Actually, that's kind of interesting now I think about it. I mean, what exactly is he trying to say there? Yeah. But be that as it may, there's a sense of chaos. Yeah, the sense that this Gotham City. And by the way, the movie has quite a few shots, architectural shots, that sort of like call back to Christopher Nolan. I mean, anybody who knows Christopher Nolan's pictures knows that he's obsessed with architecture. And he has these enormous shots of cities, right? And this movie has a couple of those big shots. And they're really extraordinary. There's one beautiful, beautiful, beautiful shot of this train going down the tracks. And the camera tilts up to see the city. And it's this enormous city that sprawled out with big buildings, endless, right? And the train is going straight towards it. It's a really extraordinary shot. But again, it sort of like points up that this movie, it's referencing other movies, better movies, frankly. And it doesn't have the courage of its convictions, because the movie knows what's really going on. Okay? And I think that these filmmakers, at least the writer-director, they know what's what. Okay? And they know that the liberal establishment is to blame here. Okay? They know it, but they don't dare articulate it. Todd Phillips and the people who made this picture, Bradley Cooper, etc., the producers and what have you, they know it, but they don't really dare articulate it, because either it would piss off people that they work with, or they themselves are of this political stripe and they don't have the courage to face themselves and see their own defects, right? This is as close as we're going to get to a mainstream movie that is, sympathetic to what young men are experiencing. This is the closest that we will get to a movie that is sympathetic towards incels, towards the socially, economically, and sexually disenfranchised men. It's as good as it's going to get, The only reason that Fight Club was made, okay, was because Fight Club was way ahead of its time. And at the time it was made, nobody realized what it was really talking about. Chuck Palahniuk and David Fincher are fucking prophets. I mean, they could see what was coming way before it came, okay? Fight Club would never be made today. This is as good as it's going to get, okay? And like I said, it's a capable picture, but it's not a great picture, okay? And nobody's going to remember it in a few years, okay? Now, all this bullshit of like, oh, it's going to incite violence and all the rest of it. Yeah, because at the end of the picture, right, there's a bunch of protests going on. And the protesters take on the clown mask as their symbol, okay? And they take on the clown mask and they just devolve everything into anarchy, which is kind of weird. It's sort of like Antifa, okay? And sort of like, almost like the Joker is the godfather of Antifa. But like, everybody who knows and realizes that Antifa, they're just a bunch of privileged college kids who went to these privileged liberal arts schools and who work in white-collar jobs, or who will eventually work in white-collar jobs. They're not working-class kids. They're not working-class kids with no opportunities. They're not guys who are sexually disenfranchised. They are not guys who are socially disenfranchised. Antifa are upscale kids, right? Upscale kids who are just a bunch of little faggot pussies, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I despise those fuckers because they have it easy, and they're protesting because they're fucking tantrumy fucks, as far as I'm concerned. And oddly, this movie, like I said, it's politically confused. It wants to make a statement about contemporary politics, but it fails. It fails because it doesn't have the balls to pick a side. You see what I'm saying? And it's disappointing because because it has a lot of good pieces to it, but they just don't come together. It's unfortunate, but it's the way. It happens all the time. That something is really, it's almost there, but it doesn't quite happen. The pieces don't quite come together, you know. And well, I wanted to tell you guys what I thought. I really wanted this movie to be better. I really wanted it to be better because there's a lot there. There's a lot there. The notion of being so lonesome. I think that that's the thing that the movie captures very well, by the way, of how Arthur Fleck is so lonesome with nothing except his mother. And you see how he loves his mother and cares for her. He's very tender towards her. And that makes him extremely sympathetic, right? Because a good half of the movie, the first half, his relationship with his mother is just so lovely. And she's a doddering old lady, and he is, not doing well in life, but they get some comfort from one another. And there's this wonderful scene where she says all excitedly that the Murray Rothman show, I think it's called, the character played by Robert De Niro, who's a talk show host, right? He says, "Oh, the Murray show is on. The Murray show is on," and he gets all excited. And she's in bed when watching the TV, right? And he like turns out the lights, right, and hops into bed right next to her, and they cuddle up, right, to watch the stupid show, and it's a lovely scene. It's a lovely scene, and the acting is superb because there's a natural ease between the two actors, between Joaquin Phoenix and I forget the name of the actress who plays the mother, but it's wonderful, wonderful. And there are a lot of things like that that make him extremely sympathetic. That you say to him, you say about Arthur, yes, I understand his rage. Yes, I understand why he's going crazy. Yes, I understand. And that's valuable. That's laudable. That's something that you should, that you're like, yeah, you understand, see? And of course, when you understand something, right? What you're basically saying is, it is justified. This behavior, what he does, the craziness, it's justified. It might not be correct. It might be something bad that he's done, right? Like, obviously murder is bad, right? Well, we can all agree on that. Yeah, of course it's bad, but you understand, okay? It's not out of the blue, okay? Hang on just a second. Hang on, I just need to take a quick pause. This will be just 2 seconds. Sorry about that. I was taking drugs. No, I wasn't taking drugs. I was taking an antacid tablet. I didn't want you guys to hear me chewing it, on air. Sorry. But yeah, it's not shrooms, which, by the way, I took the other day. I told the people following me on Instagram, took shrooms, when was it? Tuesday? Yeah. Oh, fucking great, because shrooms are legal in Amsterdam. Yeah, went down to the corner shop. It cost me 30 euros for 200 grams. And, incredibly clean. It comes in a little plastic receptacle, right? The shrooms themselves in a vacuum-packed plastic envelope, right? Fresh as just picked, right? And yeah, they were like really pretty good, It was, I'll tell you the brand. I have the thing right here. Hang on, let me just find it here. It was called, Dragon Dynamite. Yeah, look it up. Yeah, psilocybin mushrooms. Pretty goddamn good. Yeah, I tripped out on Tuesday for 6 hours or so. Worth it. Very, very, very much worth it. But be that as it may, I'm not taking drugs now. I am stone cold sober and just disappointed. Just disappointed because I really wanted this movie to be like the Citizen Kane of incels. You know what I mean? But it's not. It's close. Oh, by the way, sorry. Tramonti sent me $10. Thank you, Tramonti. And he says, keep the good job. I suppose you mean keep up the good job. Thank you, Tremonti. That's very kind of you. Did anybody else send me a super chat? If you did, please forgive me. I didn't notice. Let me just scan real quick the chat. No, no, no. Okay. So as I was saying, oh, I saw somebody say that this is the first live stream. Yeah, I don't do live streams usually. I'm not very good at them, you know. And on top of that, you know, the scene was much more interesting a year or so ago when everybody was in everybody else's live streams, but everybody got into so much goddamn fighting and shit that in the end the whole scene fell apart. And so now everybody's doing their own shit independent one of the other, and nobody hangs out with anybody else. And so doing a live stream on your own is kind of like, you know, I'm just not up for that. Okay. So anyway, as I was telling you guys, why are people in the establishment scared of this movie? Why do they think that? I mean, I heard, and you guys in chat correct me if this is totally wrong, but I understand that the New York Police Department had undercover cops at every screening of this movie in case that violence would break out, which I think is absurd. I mean, it's just fucking crazy. Okay, now you guys tell me if this is true or not, right? But you know, there is no reason why this would be a movie that would incite violence. First of all, it's a slow movie, okay, and it's not a movie that incites people. It makes you think, and it does an effective job of that. But the problem is, of course, it makes you think, but it doesn't quite deliver. That's the problem, okay? I think, you know, A for effort, you know, but, you know, B. It's a B, yeah, yeah. It's a B picture, you know. B in not in the sense of being like a poorly made picture. I mean in the sense of just not accomplishing its objectives. You know, it gets a B grade as a movie, A for effort. But that's that. You see what I'm saying? Okay, what's going on with this fear of Joker inciting people? Well, because the wider culture recognizes that they are fucking over a very large swath of the population, young men, okay? Young men, and most of my audience, fucking 97% of my audience are young men, yeah? Well, 97% of my audience are men, and my actual, well, what the fuck, why don't I just tell you right now? I'll look it up real quick. The vast majority of my audience is men, and I would say, I think it's something like, 2/3 of my audience are between the ages of 18 and 44. Okay? And yeah, and I know what's what, and I know why people are so fucking pissed off. And they're right to be pissed off. They're right to be pissed off because, you know, men are being treated like shit. Oh, and by the way, my mistake. I have 60% of my audience between the ages of 18 and 34. Okay? 18 and 34, 60%. I have, what's that? 81% of my audience is males between the ages of 18 and 44. Yeah, yeah. The bulk of my audience is 40.8% of my audience is between the ages of 25 and 34. Presumably you are of that, you know, of that cohort, or at least there's a 40% chance likelihood that you are. And so I know my audience, right? It's inevitable. You get to interact with people via DMs, via reading their comments to the videos that I make and what have you. And fuck yeah, I know what my audience thinks. I have a pretty clear beat on it. And I know the things that they're pissed off about. They're not necessarily things that I'm pissed off about because, you know, they don't affect me. Because I'm older, because, you know, I've had a different fortune, different background, different this, that, the other. But I know that it does affect a large swath of my audience. And a large swath of my audience feels completely disenfranchised in every regard. No economic future, no opportunity with women that they would want to have a family with and have children with. No opportunity for, there's no opportunity. There's like nothing for so many young men. And of course that those young men are going to become resentful. And see, the reason that a lot of people are you know, wringing their hands over Joker is because this movie is very gingerly touching on or pointing towards guys like you, guys who are resentful and angry that they don't have any opportunities, that you're disenfranchised from the political process, which is just so much bullshit. I mean, look what's going on in the UK. Look what's going on in the United States. Disenfranchised socially, isolated, with no friends, with nothing, and everybody's saying, "Oh, you should just join a community." Like, what community, you fuckstick? There is no community, right? And insofar as women are concerned, women are fucking whores, or they are just nowhere to be found, right? At least the nice ones, the normal ones, the ones who aren't whores, they're nowhere to be found, right? And on top of that, the women are, they are encouraged to forego having any kind of serious relationship and instead focus all of their energies on their career, okay, which is just not natural. And it causes resentment among young men. And of course, and this resentment, I mean, I understand it. And if I were, if I were 27, fuck yeah, I would be resentful. Fuck yeah. I would be incredibly angry. And so I understand it. Yeah, I'm not so blind. And I think that everybody realizes this. And that's why there's all this hand-wringing over the fucking Joker movie, right? Which, like I said, it's not going to incite any fucking violence because it doesn't deliver. It doesn't have that visceral impact. You know what I mean? But it's pointing in the right direction. It's pointing in your direction. You who are listening to me, you who watch my videos, that video that I did, Men Are Tired, right? A lot of people like that video. I'm proud of that video. I think I did a good job on it, and a lot of people really liked it. That fucking video was suppressed to high heaven. Fuck yeah. That video should have shot the moon. It only got like 110,000 views or something like that. It should have gotten a lot more. And I'm not acting like an asshole, like, oh, my videos should get, no. I mean, I know that sometimes I do videos that, they're going to do okay, just okay, and people are not going to really, go crazy over them. But that video, it should have gotten a lot more views, but fucking YouTube totally crushed it. Yeah, it has 122,000 views. It should have gotten over 1 million, yeah, it should have gotten over 1 million, but they didn't serve it up to people. They didn't serve it up because it articulates the anger of a lot of young guys. And I think that sort of like proves my point, that people in positions of power, those people in the top 20%, they recognize that there is a large portion of young men like you, who are totally disenfranchised, that the system is geared towards disenfranchising young guys like you, and they're scared of you. They're really fucking scared of you. And, they are going to push marijuana. And believe me, they're going to push for more drugs to pacify you who are listening to me, okay? They're scared of you. And they want to pacify you, and they do it with video games. They do it by encouraging you to pay attention to fucking pop culture and bullshit like, the latest Marvel movie or some shit like that. And they don't want you paying attention to the causes of your disenfranchisement. Yeah. They want you distracted. Because if you're distracted, you're essentially pacified. If you're distracted, bitching about Star Wars and how shitty it is now, if you're saying, oh yeah, they're legalizing pot, isn't that great? We'll go and get high this weekend, right? If they are diffusing your energy, they are winning. You see what I'm saying? And I think that they're very pissed off at Joker because even though it fails, it kind of like goes in the direction of articulating the anger that a lot of young men feel. Yeah, I think that that's what's going on, A lot of liberals, man, they're fucking terrified of you fuckers. Yeah, you fuckers, you who are listening, that's who I'm referring to. They're fucking terrified of you. They're terrified that you're going to get your shit together, organize, and beat the ever-living shit out of these fuckers. Because all these leftists, right? They're weak. They're weak pussies. These Antifa fucks. Yeah, yeah, they look scary. All dressed in black with their black masks and shit. But yeah, you step up to them, yeah, and they crumple. And you've seen street fights, right? These fuckers, Antifa, right? They don't last 2 seconds in front of some tough sons of bitches. Yeah? They don't last not 2 fucking seconds. They all pussy out like fucking little cucked out bitches, right? The only people that they can, that they can actually intimidate are old people. You saw that video that came out of like that old couple. I mean, the lady was in a fucking walker, for crying out loud. A white-haired old lady. She must have been about 1,000 years old, poor thing. She is crossing the street in a walker. And these fucking Antifa start calling her Nazi fascist and whatnot. And she was an old lady. What the fuck? I mean, you guys saw that, right? I mean, hit one if you saw it, okay? I mean, I saw that and I was like, fuck. I mean, if an old lady, that old, I mean, realistically, she must have been in her 70s, like mid to late 70s at least, not in great health. I mean, she's in a walker, right? Hit one if you saw that, right? Oh man, God damn, I mean, it broke my heart because that old lady, even if she had been a fucking Nazi, even if she'd been screaming kind of like, racial epithets and, kill this minority group and that minority group and what have you, she was so goddamn old, okay? I mean, even if she is a horrible person, you can't be doing that. Out of just a simple, just human decency, the woman is too fucking old. And that woman, there was some audio that came out of that shot, right? Of that filming of that moment, right? And she's like trying to argue and bargain with these people so she can fucking cross the street, man. Come on, right? Antifa, they can only, fight old people. Oh, there's that great, horrible rather, video of this old man who was holding up a pro-life sign, and some Antifa beat the shit out of the poor old guy to steal away his sign and break it. And he knocked the old man down. And, old people, a lot of them, they die because of falls. Kurt Vonnegut, the great writer, that's how he died. He was 80 and in relatively good shape, but he stepped out of his home and he fell down the steps and died. I mean, cracked his skull and lasted a few days, but then died. Yeah. Old people, when you push them down and they fall, they can easily die. Okay? It's yeah, and these fuckers don't have a problem doing that. Okay? They only have the balls to hurt old people. Yeah, but a young guy, they pussy out like bitches. They're all a bunch of fucking faggots. And I'm not being disrespectful of the homosexuals, right? I'm saying that they are unmanly. They are, I despise Antifa. But anyway, the establishment, the top 20%, the people, the managerial classes, they're afraid of you, okay? You who are listening to me. They're fucking terrified of you. And they want you pacified. They want you on drugs. They want you paying attention to fucking video games and pop culture. They don't want you to be paying attention to asking the obvious question, which is, who is behind the curtains pulling on the levers of power? They don't want you to ask that question. They don't want you to ask, why are we importing so many migrants from underdeveloped countries? They don't want you to ask, why are we encouraging women to have careers instead of having children? The answer to those questions, for instance, is they want cheaper labor. Because for them, the ultimate good is money. Because Milton Friedman, back in the 60s, basically argued that the only good, insofar as capitalism is concerned, is making money. And that companies should care about nothing except making money and improving shareholder value, which is not true. It's fucking immoral if you think about it. Companies should be caring about making the best product or best service possible and taking care of the workers that sacrifice their time and their lives in order to create these products or services. That should be the highest good, to make the best product possible, not make the most money. You make a lot of money as a byproduct of doing good work. It's not an end in itself, right? But anyway, these fuckers, they all believe that money is the ultimate goal. And therefore, in any company, what's the number one cost? Labor. Labor is the number one cost in any company, okay? Not infrastructure. No, those are capital investments, see? I mean, anybody who knows accounting will know that what I'm saying is true. Yeah, you build a factory, that's not an expense. No, that's an asset. You build a factory, you have an asset. Your expenses are labor. Labor and all the benefits that you have to give to your workers in order to have them be happy and comply with the law, right? Retirement, this, that, the other. Yeah, those are the expenses of a company. And so how do you minimize labor costs? Well, basic economics, supply and demand, right? If you want to lower the cost of something, you have to lower the demand for that thing or increase the supply of that thing. For instance, if a unit of labor costs, say, $10 an hour, just for the sake of argument, right? And you want to lower that, well, you got to either lower the demand for the labor, that is, have fewer companies wanting the workers, or bring in more workers somehow. And that's what they did. First, they got the women to join the workforce. And notice, women, see, because they're physically weak, so they went to the brain occupations, like lawyers and doctors and that whatnot, right? And so the cost of lawyers and doctors and accountants, they went down, right? Because if you're a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant, you don't have to be physically strong to do those jobs, right? But the jobs that do require physical strength, like say, oil rig worker, yeah, they're high. They're expensive because no woman can do those jobs. Or let me phrase it. I'm sure that there is some woman somewhere who is exceedingly strong enough to beat the ever-living shit out of me if she wanted to. Yeah, so she might be working, but she's like the one person, okay? I mean, if somebody were to tell me that, oil rig workers, there are 9 guys and 1 woman, I would not be surprised, right? Because it's a tough job. You got to be physically strong. It's very, very difficult. Few women want to do that job. Few, if any, women want to do that job. And so the price of those jobs is high. And that's why, for instance, plumbers, oil rig workers, any kind of manual labor that requires physical strength, those now pay very, very well. And the brain power jobs, lawyers, accountants, this, that, the other, they pay very, very poorly because there are so many women. You see what I mean? Because if in 1950 there were no women lawyers, and in the year 2000 there are 50-50 men and women lawyers, right? What does that mean? It means that the number of lawyers doubled. Therefore, the price of the lawyer was halved. That's what happened. You see what I'm saying? You see how it works here, okay? And it was all designed to drive down the price of labor, to pay people less so that the companies could earn more, so that the people who own the companies could profit more. That's what happened. That's what's going on, okay? And the movie, this Joker movie, it just posits that there are rich people at the top and everybody else at the bottom. But the reasons for it are important because the reasons help you understand why there are certain policies that are being implemented. Why are they bringing in all of these migrants from third world countries to the Western democracies? It's to lower the price of labor. Yeah. And if you who are perhaps a first or second generation immigrant from one of these underdeveloped countries living in the United States or the Western European countries who's listening to me, right? You should ask yourself how horrible this is for your home country. Because you're capable. Your parents were capable, right? And rather than build something in your own home, in your own country, you were seduced into going to the Western democracies, lowering the price of labor for everybody in the Western democracies, right? And stealing your labor from your home country. You're Indian, say, or Pakistani, or from any of the Middle Eastern countries, right? Or Chinese, or this, that, the other. Yeah, you fled your country. You are a brain drain to your country. Yeah. And because of that, because you who are now in the Western democracies, right? Because you're now in the Western democracies, you're not going to be able to help your country. And therefore, your country could have used you as part of the middle class or the upper middle class to develop the country even more and make it better, make it more fair for everyone. You see? You see how pernicious this policy is? It's worse than fucking, what you call it, imperialism, right? Because the imperialists back in the 19th century, right, they just wanted to exploit people and be done with it, right? But here, they want, I mean, the imperialists want to take the raw materials from these countries. But here, now, today, this new imperialism takes the human capital out of these countries, steals it for themselves so as to lower the price of labor in their own country. Look how fucking awful this is. Yeah? It's awful for everybody. The only people who benefit are the rich people. That's why we have the obscene wealth inequality of today. The obscenity of it. You know, there has never been a time in human history ever where we have had such a chasm between the richest and the poorest. And see, it wouldn't be such a bad thing, you know, because, see, a lot of people, a lot of the defenders of these rich people, right? A lot of the people in the mainstream media, a lot of these fucksticks in the mainstream media who are just the bootlickers and the lackeys of the top 1%, right? They say that, they say correctly, that today the material welfare of even the poorest people today in the Western democracies is light years ahead of even the richest people 100 years ago. And that's actually kind of true, okay? But it's not enough that people today enjoy material prosperity. They do. But there's something more fundamental. They lack security and they lack a meaning to their lives. And this is, I think, crucial. This is actually much more important than material well-being. It's great to have like a lot of material doodads, you know, all the shit that, you know, that clutters up your life, right? It's great to have all that crap. But nothing can replace having a reason to get up in the morning. Nothing can replace having a sense of like meaning and connection to what you're doing. There are so many guys today who live like they're like an Uber driver or some shit like that, right? And everybody talks about the gig economy, right? Like it's such a great thing. It's a horrible fucking thing, the gig economy, because it means that you have no certainty, no stability. You're just constantly chasing labor, constantly chasing a job, you know. And some days you might have, you know, some job that gives you a little bit of money, and some days you don't. And that kind of uncertainty wears at the soul. It eats away at the soul. And you could say to me, well, you know, back in the days when, you know, human beings were like savages living in the fucking African savannah, and we get up in the morning, you know, and we didn't have any food, and we had to go out and hunt for food and shit. Well, there was uncertainty there. Yeah, there was uncertainty, but there was a certain routine. And more to the point, see, we were all living in a tribe. And so we were all in the same boat together. But today, we are all so isolated, so alone. And that's a terrible thing. Because, see, at least in the past, when there was a tribe that was wandering through the African savannah, right? They were all in the same boat. They would light to some place, they'd camp out someplace, and in the morning, the men would go out hunting all together, and it'd be a little band of maybe a dozen men of different ages, some very young, some 10-year-old, 12-year-old boy, some very old, some 50-year-old man on his last legs. And they'd all go hunt together, right? And, you know, if they found something, if they found some mammoth and killed the fucking mammoth, and they'd have a celebration, and they'd eat big steaks that day, right? And then they'd haul back the rest of the meat back to the women and the small children and the elderly people. And they'd all celebrate, they'd all have like a meal together, and they'd all feel a part of one another. And if the hunt was unsuccessful, if they wandered for hours and hours, perhaps days, looking for a woolly mammoth or whatever the fuck, and they failed to find one, the failure was all together. And of course it hurt, and it hurt people's bellies. I mean, they didn't have any food, right? If they didn't find the fucking woolly mammoth, no food, nothing to eat, right? But it was a collective suffering. You weren't suffering any more than anybody else. You were all hungry, and you were all hungry together. You were all in the same boat together. And so you didn't feel so alone. Yeah, okay, yeah, sure, you're going to be miserable because you didn't have any food for the last couple of days. But you know that your tribesman that you've known all your life, who's sleeping, 3 feet away from you, he's also fucking starving. He's in the same boat as you. And you bitch and moan and complain, and you feel not so alone. You see what I'm saying? And see, the gig economy and the life that we're living, right? It's so isolating. We're with no one. And we're constantly chasing, little jobs to get a little bit of cash. And we know that if we stop, if we rest for just a minute, if we take off like a week and try to come back, we might not find anything. There might not be any money, and it all might go down the tubes. We're terrified of that. And that creates anxiety. And we see people who have it so fucking easy with all of these fucking zeros in their bank accounts. And their big problem is, whether they have like the almond milk and the soy latte crap drink that they get from the unbelievably expensive coffee shop, right? Where the fucking drinks cost like $5 a pop, right? And we do the math and we realize that from our fucking Uber job, we're not even getting $5 an hour, okay? I mean, when all is said and done and the expense for gasoline and the rest of it, we're not making $5 an hour driving fucking Uber. And these rich fucksticks are complaining about their fucking coffee that costs more than an hour of our labor, right? And we're resentful. Of course we're resentful. And of course we have a right to be angry. We have a right to be upset. When we have the right to say that this is fucking unfair. It's so fucking unfair. It's so fucking unfair that a young man has nothing and nothing to look forward to. A young man has the right to be angry at the fact that he's looked at as the bad guy. Because it's just fucking wrong. A man has the right to be upset that he is living in a society that hates him and fears him. But I'm here to tell you, man, that they're right to fear you. They are right to fear you because they've done you wrong, okay? And I think that that's the thing that bothers me about the movie. The movie, it knows the truth, but doesn't want to go for broke. Yeah. And it comes as close as they can, but they don't really touch the fire. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Look, I've been ranting for 73 minutes. I'm gonna call it quits on this thing because I'm just gonna get more and more pissed off because I'm so fucking pissed off. I'm so fucking pissed off because I'm pissed off because people in positions of power and people in the media, they know that they are acting wrong. And that's why they're afraid of you. Okay? I mean, know that. Whenever anybody says that, oh, this group or that group is a danger to society, it's because they know they've done you wrong. Okay? That's a fact. Like you look at the Southern racists back in the day in the 40s and the 50s who fought tooth and nail against desegregation and civil rights and all that shit. Yeah, why was it? Because they know that they were doing wrong, okay? And today, that hatred towards young men, that fear, yeah, and labeling them all incels and saying that they're all this, that, the other, yeah, it's out of fear and knowing and guilt. Fear and guilt. Yeah. And so I'm asking you as a final note, all these distractions that are in your life, drugs, the stupid video games, the stupid pop culture, all that crap. Be smart and strip it out of your life. Start reading classic books. You know, the big authors like Dostoevsky. I always tell you fuckers to read Dostoevsky. Greatest author you can read. Yeah. The Brothers Karamazov. Yeah. Brothers Karamazov. Notes from Underground. That's another book. Notes from Underground. Yeah. Understand that you're being mistreated. You're being abused. Okay? And so be smart and don't let them abuse you. Don't let them distract you. Don't let them dissipate your energy with distractions like drugs or pop culture or stupid shit like that. No. Focus on building up yourself, you know? There's this great article on the fucking Guardian, you know? I mean, great quotation marks, right? This fucking lefty cunt says that working out is a symptom of far-right extremism. Yeah. So if you work out, you might be a far-right extremist, right? What the fuck? And what the fuck does that tell you? They don't want you to work out. They don't want you to get in shape. They don't want you to slim down, stop eating all that junk food, start eating your veggies and, you know, lean protein and get yourself in shape. Start running 5 miles every day. Start doing, you know, your reps with weights. They don't want you to do that. No, they want you fat and stupid and lazy so they can dismiss you. Okay? And if you go against their agenda of keeping you fat and stupid and lazy and zonked out on fucking internet or zonked out on fucking pop culture or pot, right? Then they're going to call you a far-right extremist, okay? Yeah. Don't be what they want you to be, okay? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. This has been an all over the place fucking stream, but what the fuck? Let me check real quick the super chats because I try to be good about super chats, but sometimes I fail and sometimes I miss it. There have been 2 super chats. There was from Tremonte. It was $10. Keep up the good job. Thank you, Tremonte. And there was from Jonathan Lima. He says he sent $5. Thank you, Jonathan. He says, born trabalho. Oh, well, I think it's in Portuguese. I'll read it. I don't know how to speak Portuguese, but I think I'll understand it. Bom trabajo, coach. Good work, coach. Quería que tuvieses un contenido tan bom assim en português. I think he wants me to have more content in Portuguese. Oh, brother, you know, I'm too old to learn a new language, so you're going to have to forgive me. But, you know, next lifetime. So anyway, I'll leave you be. This has been Coach Red Pill ranting about the Joker. Go see it and have your own opinion. And yeah, so I'll catch you later. Take it easy. Oh, before I go, the video that was going to go up today is going up on Saturday. I just pushed everything over for like a day. And I'll tell you right now, where the fuck did I have this thing? I'll tell you the names of the videos if you're interested. And go to my Instagram. My Instagram is coach.red.pill. That's because what happened is that I had one that was all Coach Red Pill, one word, but it was on an old phone and I just had it there on standby. And what happened was that I lost access to that account, and so I had to do a separate account. So anyway, that's my official Coach Red Pill Instagram, coach.red.pill on Instagram. And I usually put up like the videos I'm going to be putting out over the next few days, and the next ones are going to be, okay, yeah, I put out the girls with tattoos. I hope you guys like that one. The next one is going to be called, it's coming out on Saturday, noon Eastern, or 11 a.m. Eastern, I think. I don't know. Maybe I fucked up the time. Shiksas are for practice, in quotation marks, right? Shiksas is the name that Jews use to describe women who are not Jewish, right? It's derogatory. And I'm not Jewish, obviously. I am Roman Catholic. But I got that line from a house episode, and it's actually kind of interesting. I think it applies, okay? I think you'll get a lot out of it. Then on Sunday, I'm putting out the video called Always Monkey Branch, right? Because men always complain about women monkey branching. Well, fucker, do the same thing. If it works for them, it'll work for you. And not just with women. It will work with jobs or anything else you want to do. And finally, on Tuesday, what's this? October 8th, I'm putting out a video called Dating an NPC. Remember the NPC meme, the non-player character meme? Well, I didn't do anything at the time that the meme was big, because I've never been really one to chase trends. But something happened to me, right? Where I was, seeing some girl who was an NPC, no other way to put it. And I realized, I've dated a lot of NPCs in my time. I all of a sudden realized, I figured I'd do a video about it, and so here it is. So anyway, those are the next 3 videos. I hope you enjoy them. I hope you've enjoyed this stream. And yeah, remember, if there's anything that you want to advise me on, to tell you the honest truth, on Patreon, I pay attention to my DMs because my Patreons, well, they're paying me $5 a month, so I got to pay attention to the DMs. I mean, it's my obligation to them, right? If you email me, sometimes I get so many goddamn emails that you're going to have to forgive me sometimes. I just can't get to them. They're just too goddamn many. I usually get about between 20 and 50 a day, okay? And so at most, I'm just able to scan them and sort of like, oh, yeah, that's cool. But, I can rarely answer an email. But I make the total effort to answer all of my Patreon DMs. So there you go. So anyway, this has been Coach Red Pill. Hope you enjoyed this stream, and I will talk to you later. Take it easy, guys.